All right, coming up on today's Philadelphia 76ers now, some updated Sixers trade candidates and trade targets from NBA Insider Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. You're watching 76ers now. Hope all of you out there had a fantastic weekend, a fantastic show on tap for you all today. But first, if you want free and year-round Sixers coverage, make sure you lock us in and hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 14,000 subscribers, and I want to make a deal. If we pick up 100 subscribers on this show alone, producer Chip and I are going to do a Sixers watch party very soon and get back to the watch party flow. Shout out to some of our recent subscribers. This is also why you subscribe, because we show love to the real ones. Raheem Howard, Nicholas Falby, Kenneth Thomas, Curtis R., and Cobra Kings. Hopefully I pronounce Nicholas's name right. If not, we appreciate you either way. Make sure you hit that sub button right now for informative, insightful, and entertaining Sixers coverage. All right, let's start off here with some Sixers trade candidates. These are players that the Philadelphia 76ers could include in a deal to bulk up, bolster, and improve this roster as we progress here throughout the 2023-2024 season. By the way, absolutely insane that we're sitting here on December 4th right now with the new year coming up right around the corner, but that also means that the NBA trade deadline is lurking in February. Marcus Morris, Nicolas Batum, Robert Covington, KJ Martin, and Furkan Korkmaz, who's like 0 for 4 with his trade request out of Philadelphia, all fit the bill here of players that the Sixers could look to include as they wheel in deal if they want to make a move. Here's what Michael Scotto had to say specifically about KJ Martin. Teams have expressed exploratory interest in the forward, who will be an unrestricted free agent in July, league sources told Hoops Hype. Despite a limited role since joining the 76ers, rival teams are intrigued after he averaged 12.7 points and 5.5 rebounds for the Rockets and played all 82 games last year. So that's the latest on KJ Martin. I kind of like him. Wouldn't hate to see him get a little bit more run. As for Furkan Korkmaz, teams are seemingly always looking for shooters. That's why it's, I guess, somewhat odd that Furkan Korkmaz has requested a couple of trades and there hasn't been a lot of interest. Maybe he's just not all that good. But Scotto on him, Korkmaz, also a trade candidate if the 76ers want to avoid the luxury tax and move his $5.37 million salary to a team with cap space. When you look at this from the bird's eye view, we have 5 players here on this list. I kind of expect 3, if not maybe 2, of these 5 will be traded because I do think Philadelphia is going to make some type of move, a semblance of an acquisition to just try to improve this roster a little bit. And the expiring contracts here, very desirable for Philadelphia to shed salary, for incoming salary, and then for the acquiring team looking to get rid of salary if they're trying to take on money. Those players fit the bill, and some of these players can be a rotational piece or an impact player on another squad out there. So with that, we ask you this: which player are the Sixers most likely to trade? Drop me a name. If you want to drop me some names down below in the comment section, you could do that as well. Now let's get to some Sixers trade targets. These are players that we believe could help this roster, but also some players that Michael Scotto did mention in that report with Hoops Hype. Dorian Finney-Smith, intriguing player who, when with the Dallas Mavericks a couple of years ago, when they made that surprise run to the Western Conference Finals, was a very good 3-and-D player. And then when the Mavericks traded for Kyrie Irving, Brooklyn wanted a solid piece back. So that's why Dorian Finney-Smith was included in that deal. I like his size. I like his athleticism. I like his length. He's 6'7", 220 pounds. This year, averaging nearly 11 points per game, 44% from three-point range. He was such a good fit alongside Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson at the time because he could knock down threes, stretch the floor, didn't demand the basketball, and played high-level defense. Do those things sound like elements that the Sixers might be looking for and they might need on this roster? I think so. Here's what Michael Scotto had to say about Dodo. Given that Finney-Smith is signed through the 2024-2025 season before a $15.38 million player option decision for the following year, rival executives expect the Nets to continue to have a high asking price worth the equivalent of 2 first-round picks if they trade him, with the hope that the asking price will drop closer to the trade deadline. Now, you look at the advanced shooting numbers here. and you could take a look at those on the screen. If we're living in a world in which Dorian Finney-Smith is netting 2 first-round picks back, I believe that's just agent leverage talk. As the kids would say today, cap, right? I don't think a team has given up 2 first-rounders for Dorian Finney-Smith. Nice player. 2 first-rounders, though, I'm going 1. But tied for 4th in corner three-pointers made, can fit alongside Tyrese, Maxey, and Joel Embiid. Tied for 4th in catch-and-shoot three-pointers made with 43, and above the break triples, 44.8%. So he's kind of that perfect 3-and-D player under contract for the next couple of years at an affordable price tag for the Sixers to look into, and a player that I would really like. A player who we've talked about previously here on the show, and we're going to talk about him again, ties with Nick Nurse, also a very solid ball player and hooper, is Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam, also a very good two-way player, who's an excellent defender. He demands the basketball and requires the basketball a little bit more. His numbers so far this year, checking in at 20 points per game, 7 boards, 5 assists, almost 48% from from the field, excuse me. What is an issue with Pascal Siakam is that over the last couple of years, his three-point numbers have continued to go down. And 19.8% from 3 is colder than a winter blizzard going through the Philadelphia area. That is brisk. That is freezing. That is an abomination. Less than 20% from three-point range. And since connecting on nearly 37% of his field goals in 2018-2019, that was his career high, 35.6%, under 30, 34, 32% last year, now down to 20%. The regression there is an issue, and I believe the Philadelphia 76ers want to bring a player in who can actually knock down some threes at a better clip. Free agent, wants a max deal as well. So this could be categorized as a rental, or if you're serious about him being a franchise cornerstone, you have all that cap space that you opened up, and trading away James Harden, maybe you let Tobias Harris go, you replace him with Pascal Siakam, that's another option there. You could go down that avenue. But you think back to the three-point numbers, they worry me a little bit, but he is always a player who's going to give you more than 20 points per game, solid rebounder, very feisty, a lot of length, good athleticism, and a frisky defender. If you want Siakam, you probably need to give up Tobias Harris. And if you're going to let Tobias Harris walk after this year, and you're going to pay Siakam instead, you might as well try to include Harris in a deal on an expiring contract, similar price tag, similar skill sets, but I think Siakam might offer a little bit more shot creation. Tobias Harris down the stretch in that game against Boston on Friday. Shout out to Patrick Beverley for just balling out, but Harris, goose egg in that second half, unacceptable for a player of that caliber and of that price tag. So if you could pick a player between these two here, Tobias Harris, Pascal Siakam, who are you going with as a better fit on this Sixers team? I might go Siakam, and maybe reuniting with Nick Nurse can allow him to flourish. More to get to here on 76ers Now, but first, today's show is sponsored by Factor. Get 50% off using the code NBAChat50. And right now, we are also busy during the holidays with doing our holiday to-dos, holiday shopping. I just went out, got a real Christmas tree the other day. The scent of pine in my apartment is just gorgeous. And with Factor, it saves me time, so I'm able to do those things. This holiday season, hit up Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. They can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals that are delivered straight to your door. You're going to save time, you're going to eat well, and you're going to stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all of your holiday to-dos. Skip the stress of meal prepping over the holidays with Factor, and you can choose. We're talking vast options here, ladies and gentlemen. 35-plus weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences. And everything delivered straight to your door, ready to eat in 2 minutes. So again, this is a limited time deal, and it's a fantastic one. FactorMeals.com/NBAChat50. We really care about all of you, so we're going to put that link down below in the comments section as well as in the description of this video. Sixers trade target number 3, OG Anunoby. This is among one of the players across the entire NBA that I would really, really like. And we talked about him. We documented it here on the show. Good two-way player. isn't high maintenance offensively with his usage. Michael Scotto with more on OG. After losing Kawhi Leonard in free agency to the Clippers, Kyle Lowry to the Heat in a sign-in trade, Precious Achiuwa, Goran Dragic, Fred VanVleet to the Rockets in free agency, Toronto is concerned about potential teams who could give Anunoby a shorter-term max contract due to the weak free agent market. Philadelphia 76ers, one of the potential teams who could give Anunoby a max deal this summer. Philadelphia could also try to trade for Anunoby and re-sign him with bird rights while keeping Tobias Harris. I know some of you might go, ugh, Tobias Harris? No. It is a reality, though, and he has played better basketball under Nick Nurse. I'll always say he's a good player, not a great player, and an overly paid player, but a solid one at that. Anunoby has put together a pretty good resume, and I think that his game has really taken off in recent years. The development that we've seen, very, very impressive. Won that title in 2019, quadruple bounce shoot me. 2022, 2023, all-defensive second team. 2022, 2023, NBA steals leader, and analytically, always one of the top defenders in the game. This year, scoring numbers down just a bit. I think the dip is just the fact that the Toronto Raptors just not really clicking as a basketball unit. New head coach, a lot of new pieces. Losing Fred VanVleet, who is the key distributor and creator, and because of that, other players have suffered. But 14.5 points per game, 46% from the deck, 40% from three. You'll probably take those numbers with Tyrese, Maxey, and Embiid going off. He's one of the best defenders in the entire NBA. And I go back to this. Like, if you're in a playoff series against Jason Tatum, you're in a playoff series against Jimmy Butler in the Eastern Conference, now Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, you need a player. You need a wing defender who's going to be able to play and provide lockdown defense. And Anunoby, he's been proven to do just that. When guarded by OG, check out these numbers, man. Anthony Edwards is 8 of 27. Zach LaVine, 3 of 14. Giannis, 5 of 11. A little bit of a height difference there. Damian Lillard, 4 of 9. Victor Wembanyama, 7 of 16. Luka, 11 of 26. Donovan Mitchell, 4 of 17. Kevin Durant, 10 of 30. So a lot of volume there. Devin Booker, clamps, 2 of 12. And then Scoot Henderson, 4 of 12. So I think when you think about some of these trade targets for Philadelphia, and you think about the game, you think about the fit, think about the overall impact, two-way guy, I think the familiarity with Nick Nurse is always a plus. OG might be the missing piece for the 76ers. Lastly, Zach LaVine. I've completely cooled on Zach LaVine. I've hated the effort. I've hated the body language. I've hated him leaving the floor early during some of these listless losses. These are all red flags for me, and all those things, personality traits to a certain degree, even if it's not him as a person, when things go tough, you're just going to crater? We know that Philadelphia could be a pressure cooker. We know that, playing in Philadelphia is like being in a slow cooker all day where the heat can get ratcheted up over time, and sometimes that pressure becomes so overwhelming. You're falling apart. You're flaking in Chicago. What's going to happen in Philadelphia here? And James Harden had a lot of those personality traits where he would shrivel in big moments, and he would start to crater and complain and come up with excuses and not take accountability for his failures. I'm seeing a little bit of that from Zach LaVine. Now, at the same time, could just be wanting out of Chicago. Time appears to be running out, Scotto said, for Chicago's core to figure it out. Two-time All-Star guard Zach LaVine has been the hottest name in trade rumors, with both he and the Bulls open to a potential trade. Here's the problem with Philadelphia, though, and Scotto outlines this. He's owed $178 million through the 2026-2027 season. That includes a player option. He's been linked to the Sixers, Lakers, Heat, and Kings. So Philadelphia, still a name and a team listed here. I think LaVine can get a first back, maybe another first-round pick if it's in this draft since it's so weak. The Bulls are currently valuing players who can help them win and a potential draft pick depending on the incoming players over tearing down the roster completely and rebuilding by taking expiring contracts and more draft picks. You know how I said earlier, Dorian Finney-Smith for 2 first-rounders? Cap. Now we're talking about Zach LaVine for a single first? Exactly. Get out of here. NBA Central aggregating this from Adrian Wojnarowski. There is not a market for Zach LaVine right now. I think that's the price tag potentially from Chicago. You always start high in negotiations, ladies and gentlemen. Then you bring your asking price down from there. That's my little advice on this Monday motivation day. Of note here, LaVine's trade value lower than we thought despite a large contract. Could be worth it. Just one first-round pick and a couple of players. That's what's kind of enticing. But again, you always start high in those negotiations, and then you come down from there because where you come down to should be your actual asking price. Have value in yourself. And for the Bulls, they're valuing LaVine, but to other teams value him in this manner, where they're going to be willing to give up a lot of compensation, player and draft capital, and then you're paying him this escalating contract that starts at $40 million this year and goes up to nearly $49 million in 2026, 2027. His numbers this year, 21 points per game, 44% from the field, 33.5% from three-point range. This is the player that, in basketball terms, I used this a little bit earlier, is high maintenance and demanding the basketball to find his groove. Like we've seen Tobias Harris struggle when he can't get into a rhythm. What's going to happen with Zach LaVine, who's used to having the ball and being a microwave scorer? I also have issues with microwave scorers because sometimes they're not consistent enough. So name your favorite Sixers trade target down in the comments section. We always want you to join that conversation because we value your feedback from the most intelligent basketball fans in the world. And don't forget to subscribe. We get 100 subs on this video. We're doing another watch party here on the show.